When it comes to Majaz, right, in Balāghah we have two things. We have ḥaqīqah and Majaz. ḥaqīqah is the literal meaning of a word. Literal meaning. The literal meaning of fataha is to open. To open something. And as for Majaz, Majaz loosely we can translate it as the metaphorical or figurative meaning. Let's say figurative. Figurative meaning. Now, meaning non-literal meaning. Non-literal meaning. Now, how can we create a non-literal meaning for a word? In Arabic, now in English, for those that have studied English, for example, in school or in some sort of an academic setting, you'll learn metaphors, you'll learn similes, for example. These are all non-literal meanings of a word. In Arabic, it's far more detailed than simply having a metaphor, for example. In Arabic, they say that there are things which are known as alāqatul Majaz. And to briefly understand this, every single word, like let's say, for example, fatah is a word, right? Fatah is a word. Every single word, in reality, it represents a meaning. The meaning of fatah is open, right? Open. So every word is simply a symbol. What are words? They are simply symbols for ma'ani. A word is simply a symbol for a ma'ni, a ma'na. Okay? Okay, it's simply a symbol. Let's say, for example, what really engages or the reality of a conversation is relaying of the ma'na. Okay, a real conversation is you have a concept in the mind, a ma'na in the mind, and you want that ma'na to be relayed to the individual that you are speaking to or you are addressing. That is what a conversation is. The words are simply symbolic for those meanings. How do we know this? Like, for example, in English, if you wanted to say, how are you? You say, how are you, right? Now, each one of these words, how, are, and you, they're symbolic for a meaning. How symbolizes something, a concept. Are symbolizes a concept, and you symbolizes a concept. In Arabic, we say كيف الحال or كيف حالك. Same thing over here. كيف is a word that symbolizes a ma'na. Now look, the word كيف and the word how, these words don't sound the same. They don't look the same. But yet they actually both symbolize the same ma'na. They both actually symbolize the same ma'na. Likewise, hal, right? Or ka and you. These two words don't look the same. But the ma'na they're symbolizing is literally the same. So, words are simply symbolic of ma'ani. Now, fataha symbolizes the ma'na of opening. Irsal, this word in Arabic symbolizes the ma'na of sending. What is Majaz? Majaz is where you use one word. We're using the word fataha. You're using one word. But instead of using it to symbolize the meaning that is supposed to be symbolizing, you use it to symbolize a separate meaning that normally it wouldn't be symbolizing. That is what Majaz means. Majaz means that instead of using the word to symbolize the meaning that it should be symbolizing, you're using that same word to symbolize a meaning of a different word, which normally that word does not symbolize. Okay, now this is really interesting. The question arises is that can you do this with every single word? Can you do this with every single word? Okay, over here we say if we permitted this to be done without any guidelines, without any rules, with every single word, then the words actually no longer have any meanings that they contain. And there would be no way to figure out what the person is intending. If I can use any word to symbolize any meaning, like the word, for example, fatah, normally it means to open. If I can use the word fatah to now symbolize any meaning, any concept, I can use the word fataha to symbolize an individual, Zayd. I can use the word fataha to symbolize a lion. I can use the word fataha to symbolize a room. I can use the word fataha to symbolize a religion, a concept. If I can use the word fataha to symbolize literally any possible meaning, then the words no longer contain any meanings by default, and it's impossible to understand the intent of the speaker. So we say that's not possible. You cannot use any word to symbolize any meaning. There are rules and guidelines that will determine when I can use a word to symbolize certain meanings that are not the default meaning of that word. What are those rules and guidelines? That is what you will study in Balāghah. And what we learn in Balāghah is that we call them alāqatul Majāz. These two meanings, right? There has to be some sort of a connection. We call this an alāqah. Alāqah means connection. There has to be some sort of a connection between these two meanings that connects these two meanings. And because these two meanings are connected, through this connection, I'm able to use the word that would normally be symbolizing one meaning for the purpose of another meaning that has a connection with that meaning. What are these connections? There's many different types. One of the most famous ones is the one he mentioned over here, إطلاق السبب وإرادة المسب. What does this mean? What is a sabab? A sabab literally means, or the meaning of the sabab is a reason for something or a means towards something. A means towards something. Like for example, the clouds are a means towards rain. So the cloud is a sabab for the rain. The cloud is a means towards water and rainfall. The cloud is a sabab towards the rain. Like that something which the sabab is a means towards, we call that musabbab. So musabbab is the result. Musabbab is the result. Okay? طيب. Now, the sabab is the means and the musabbab is the result. What do we say? Let's say there are two meanings. One of them is a sabab, the other one is a musabbab. Opening something, this is a sabab. One of the many asbab, not the only sabab, not the only means, but it's a sabab towards irsal, towards sending. Okay? When you open the door, that's how you send the water. When you open the passage, open the gate, open the dam, you send the water through. The water normally is blocked. You open it, it goes through. Okay? So the opening becomes a means towards sending. The opening becomes a means towards sending. So now when you have any two meanings, one of them is a sabab, the other one is a musabbab. One of them is the sabab, the other one is the musabbab. I can sometimes use the word that symbolizes the sabab. I can use the symbol for this, which is the word that symbolizes the sabab. I can use the symbol, the word that symbolizes the sabab, but intend the meaning, which is the musabbab. Okay, that is one of the alāqat of Majaz. And vice versa as well. And vice versa as well. So what happens over here? Allah or the author, he says Fatih al-Barakat, the opener of the blessings. What that really means is the sender of the blessings. Why? Because opening something is a means towards sending it. So this is min إطلاق السبب وإرادة المسبب. This is Majaz. Yani he إطلاق meaning usage. He used the sabab, the word which is the sabab, which is fataha, and he intended what? The musabbab, which is the result, okay, which is arsala. Okay, so he uses the word which symbolizes the meaning, but he intends by way of it, not the meaning, but rather he intends by way of it. No, he intends by way of it the other word which it is the musabbab, which is sending. Okay, this is what this means where he says, this is just a basic understanding. Now, this is one alāqah, the alāqah of sababiyya. We call this the alāqah of sababiyya, sabab and musabbab. There are over 20 alaqat in Majaz. Some of them are more famous, some of them are less famous. So there's alaqatul sababiyya, there's alaqatul juz'iyya, there's alaqatul awl, there's alaqat, or they also call it kawn, and there's many alaqat. Okay, not one. You will study this in usul al-fiqh, and you will also study in Balāghah. The place where it belongs by default is actually Balāghah, or in language and linguistic discussions. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. You will study more regarding that, but this is just to give you a little idea of how it works. And these are figurative devices that every single language uses in order to further beautify that language. If it wasn't for these figurative devices, then every word would be taken upon its literal meaning and you wouldn't find eloquence. When does eloquence come within a sentence or in a speech? When you're able to take a sentence that can be worded in many different ways, or a ma'na, a concept that can be worded in many different ways, and you choose that wording which is most impactful and most delivering of that ma'na, that concept that is in your mind that you want to deliver. That is what we call eloquence.